Derek Wolfe is back this week
Yes.
after a 4-game suspension. What do you do with him? The defense is playing so well. Do you insert him right back into the starting lineup? Do you just work him into the rotation? What's your suggestion?
I think you'll see him in base packages early. I think maybe you take some snaps from Vance Walker, although what's interesting is Vance Walker's been playing very good ball lately. And Derek Kubiak, in fact, had the best game that he's had since he joined the Broncos. So I don't know that Derek Wolfe's going to have a lot of snaps waiting for him. And certainly Antonio Smith and Malik Jackson are doing very well on pass rush downs when the Broncos use 2 defensive linemen. That I don't know that Wolfe's going to see a lot of work in that part of the D-line equation.
I don't know that I'd start him. I would certainly work him into the rotation. He's got to get his legs under him. But they're playing so well, I don't want to interrupt that. What would you do with Derek Wolfe?
Well, I think I'm excited. I live in the only state in the union where marijuana and these are legal.
It's like sniffing the old Xerox copies to get high.
Wow.
What would you do with Derek
Wolfe? I'm getting
Wolfe?
used to it. I'm getting addicted to it. If a guy's injured, I've always had the opinion that if a guy's injured, he doesn't deserve to lose his starting job. And I've gone against that this year in Cleveland.
Johnny Manziel, yeah.
So I've kind of flipped on my opinion about that. He doesn't deserve to start. When you're suspended, I think you don't deserve to start.
Yeah, the injury thing doesn't come into equation. I mean, you have a suspension. You did something to earn that. You know, he had the PED
he hasn't
violation.
earned his spot back. Defense is #1 in the league. I think you're right. But when you said about Walker, and I believe I talked to him after the game on Sunday, he was the only, according to Pro Football Focus, if we put some semblance in the national, 19 teams do, he was the only guy on the defense that graded out on the negative side. So there must have been something he wasn't doing quite right.
Have they made a corresponding player move?
No, they don't, and they don't have to. In fact, if they didn't play Derek Wolfe on Sunday, they wouldn't have to make a move until next Monday. So you've got
but they're going to play him, Andrew.
I think they're going to play him.
Yeah.
So you're going to see him move at some point in the next few
Who do you
days.
think's going to get cut? I'm curious.
It's tough. I mean, you start by looking at some of the inactive players. You know, I mean, they've put a lot into Kenny Ananiki, but he had in bringing him back from knee surgery, but he hasn't played, and he hasn't played yet. He's practiced for 2 weeks, going on 3 weeks now. It's going to be a tough call. It may come from offensive line, may come from the defensive line. You know, they cut Josh Bush last week. I mean, one thing that Gary Kubiak keeps mentioning is how tough the game day active calls are, going from 53 to 46 guys to get a jersey. So I imagine this is going to be a tough call too.
I talked to those guys last week, and that's why I thought this could be a tough one. I thought the last one, Bush really had played a little bit, but not a lot. You keep up with that stuff a lot better than I do. I wonder about Shelley Smith. I wonder about, were they impressed enough with Tyler Columbus after he came in, or do they think he's not really...
Well, that's a good point. After bringing in Columbus, after seeing Schofield do a decent job, we haven't heard the name Shelley Smith in a long, long time. I'm wondering how long he is for this team.
We haven't heard Ferentz's name once.
Well, Ferentz actually keeps getting a jersey though. Like he's been on the active 46, and Shelley Smith has not. With Shelley Smith, I think frankly it's because Max Garcia is ahead of him as the swing interior backup at the guard positions. You probably, depending on how Ty Sembrailo's shoulder is, you may have to keep Tyler Columbus just because you need an extra tackle if Sembrailo's shoulder is not healing the way you thought it would.
And on the defensive side, and why are we making much out of this? I just think there's some players that are going to contribute that could be gone. You bring up Ananiki, who played extremely well in the exhibition games, and I think they're waiting for him to get fully healthy because they don't want to let him go. They think somebody else would get him.
They think someone else would get him, and they also see a lot of potential in him. I mean, it reminds me a bit of how C.J. Anderson had the injury back in 2013 during training camp after he had the one good preseason game against San Francisco. And even though he was coming back from the knee injury, he still made the roster, and they were very patient with him, and it paid dividends. And I think if they're patient with Ananiki, I think that will pay dividends down the line because there's not many three-technique guys on the inside that have his pass rushing skills.
And let me just bring up McCray. I mean,
Laurenti McCray.
Yeah, Corey Nelson's getting a lot of playing time. McCray is on the inactive list. I mean,
well, McCray is actually a third teamer because the two backup outside linebackers are Shane Ray and Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
So he's kind of basically the extra guy there.